Well, we have Rachel Ford with us today, and we're super excited to spend some time. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good. We met a number of years ago. When I first moved to Columbus, uh, John and I were working on a deal, and I needed some insurance. And actually, I just called. There's an insurance agency down the street here, and they're by my house. If I didn't know any agencies around here, I called. At the time, I was with some company. I don't even remember the name of it, but it's a big one that they advertise quite a bit. And I had my own personal stuff there, and I called that guy, and he couldn't get it done because the house was too old or something.
Student housing, I think.
Yeah, this was a student housing,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't do it. And then I called this other agency down the street, and they wouldn't do it. And I was getting desperate because it was getting time to close, and I really needed insurance. And so I just Googled insurance agency, started calling, and Rachel answered the first phone. The first agent that answered any calls, she started talking to me, and she said, "Oh yeah, we can get it done." And
You
she's like,
got
"You should
lucky
come
with
up
that
here."
phone call.
Yep.
I'm just joking.
So that's how we met, and I ended up driving up, I don't know, like 30, 40 minutes north of here to Galena, and
Galena, yeah.
and yeah, see, still don't even know how to pronounce it.
Yep, and we got you taken care of for sure. And then I got your Kentucky properties. I think you had
Yep.
four
in Kentucky
that were
and-
student housing also, maybe?
And then I started recommending you to my brother-in-law. He was flipping some houses in
Yeah.
Indiana, and my father-in-law, and I think you helped them out a little
I
bit.
did.
Yeah,
So,
and I started using her shortly after you did, because I was using a local broker from where I came from back in Northwest Ohio. And, it's funny you said, like, you called and she picked up, which is still like it is today. And it was when I started working with you too. I mean, you're the one service provider I think that we have in all of, all the real estate service providers that we have, that, I mean, you're always on top of it, whether we send you a text, a call, even if you're on vacation, you'll send an email or a text to, your employee at the office, and they'll take care of us right away. It's really, I mean, we always say that you're a rock star at what you do, and you really are. We are delighted to still be working with you.
Thank you.
You do a fantastic job.
Pride and promptness. I think that's important in the business. I want a prompt response when I have a question, and I try to do the same, back. So,
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
since John and I first met, I think you're the second person in real estate that I met up here, and it's been fantastic. I mean, 6 years of buying and selling properties and spending lots of money on insurance, but it's comforting to know that, hey, we know our insurance needs are taken care of. And yeah, we just want to learn a little bit more about you. And you do some real estate investing. You like to go have fun at the beach, and let's just hear a little bit more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. I got into the insurance business about 7 years ago and started at a little mom and pop agency where I learned a lot, but knew I was not to my potential that I needed to be. So I, basically reached out to a larger agency, and they wanted to bring me on board, and I have just been growing ever since. And the new agency has given me more opportunity than I could ever imagine. I have learned so much. I think the number one thing that you guys know about me is price is very, very important, but coverage is more important. And, being properly covered, not overinsured. A lot of times I'll evaluate people's insurance and they will be overinsured. So you want to make sure you have enough insurance, but you don't want to be overinsured. And me representing multiple markets, I think I'm able to, shop your insurance truly in all the marketplaces and give you the best rate possible. So,
Yeah, so maybe you can tell us, what's the difference between like some of these big companies that advertise like Allstate or State Farm? You see all these on, commercials, and what's the difference between what you do and something like that?
So basically, I'm kind of like a broker. So I represent 16 different companies, and we are independent agents, where if you look at an Allstate or a Nationwide, they are a captive agent. Actually, Nationwide just started offering appointments to independent agents, and I am one of them.
Okay.
But the captive agents, they really just have their product, where I have a product for anything. I mean, knock on wood, I yet to have a risk that has come across my desk that I cannot insure. So that is a peace of mind for me. You may not want to pay the price that I get for your high risk, but I can insure it. And being a broker, we have unlimited markets. If you have DUIs, I can take care of you. If you have fires, I can take care of you. If you have student housing, I can take care of you. If you have a 70-unit apartment building, there's not really anything I can't do. So I think that's what makes me different. And being independent, you really have to keep up with, the companies. They're changing all the time. The laws are changing in Ohio, so doing my continuing education, I think, is something I take pride in and I do a lot of. I do more continuing education than what we have to do to maintain our license. So I think that in a sense makes me better too, so.
Right.
That's important. Very, very important.
And I think you do a great job. I mean, every time we buy a property, you're looking at every property individual as far as, okay, what's it worth? How much are you going to put into it? Is it vacant? If it is vacant, how long is it going to be vacant? And you put them all into kind of different buckets or different policies to help us, have the right coverage, but also at an affordable price.
Yep, absolutely. You don't want to have a vacant house that you're working on being insured as a rental and then have a fire, because you're not going to be happy with the outcome of that claim. So I figure I have about 4 or 5 questions every time you send me a house you're purchasing.
Right.
And that's how I evaluate what type of policy are we going to do here. Is it going to be just a cosmetic? Okay, we can, get it on the master policy. So it really just depends on what you're doing for what policy I put in place.
Right. And so far, they all seem to be right on track. Since we've had a few, pretty large claims that we've gotten reimbursed for because of damage. We had a gas explosion at a house next to ours. We had some theft and vandalism at another property, and we seem to be on the right property. So we appreciate, on the right policies. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, there's a lot of different. And when I started getting into real estate investing, I didn't have any idea. Like, oh, you've got vacant, but you also got like a renovation policy, which is different than vacant, and so there's so many nuances. It's important to have the right person on your team, and so why did you get into insurance? What 7 years ago made you say, hey, I'm going to go, sell insurance?
I worked for Max and Irma's for 10 years, and I did everything there was to do in the restaurant industry, and I loved it. I had my kids while working there, and I was able to go to work and go home and never think about what went on at work, and really just focus on having kids and being a mom. And when my kids got into, school age, I thought, I'm ready to have a career. I have gone to college and never used my degree, but I wanted to do something in sales. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do sales. It just comes natural to me. So one of my clients was an insurance agent, and he, it took him about 6 months to talk me into actually going to the school and getting the license. And I did it, and it instantly became my passion. I mean, once I started understanding insurance, I started loving it, and I'm, helping people out and saving them money and really specializing in the products. And I got into it that way, and I never looked back, and I wouldn't change a thing. It's great. It's great.
It's kind of like being an entrepreneur. Like, I think most salespeople, like, even though they're not necessarily maybe starting their own company, it's still like you're promoting yourself. Like,
yep.
your growth and, your income is all, you're relying on yourself to go out and sell, whether it's insurance or, anything. So, even real estate agents, that's really, you might be working for a brokerage, but you're really working for yourself.
That's correct. And, that's such a perk to the agency that I'm at and where I'm at in my line of work, is that, I do have a couple ladies in the office. So if I can't make it in, or I'm on vacation and things need done, they're still there, so that is a big deal for me in this business. So, and I always say you only have one reputation, and I'm young, so you got to do things the right way. You can't do what's easy. You have to do what's right. And, that may not always be what investors or my clients in general want to hear, but I at least know I can go to sleep at night, and when I get that claim call at 3 a.m., I don't have sweat beads going down the back of my neck wondering, do they have sufficient coverage? Right. I know if I did it, it was done right, and we're going to figure out, how the claim's going to get paid, and they have a peace of mind too. So it goes both ways.
That's great.
One of the things that attracted me to just your business and you in particular is you also invest in real estate.
I do.
So tell us, how did you get involved? What was your first deal like? How did you, how are you growing? What's your plan for that?
Sure. So when I first got in the insurance business, I started realizing everybody's retiring with rentals. They're retiring and still collecting that rental income. And I'm like, I need to start this now instead of later. And this is how I want to retire. I have my own 401k, but I don't have, an employer that is paying for me to have, retirement. So I need to make my retirement now. And one of my clients was a realtor and had some rental properties and was telling me about it and saying how he was interested in selling. And I went and looked at a couple, and I kind of thought it was too good to be true because it was so cheap. Well, it was kind of the neighborhood too, but that's a whole nother story. So he sold me a 2-pack. He sold me 2 rental properties for a really good deal, and I made one a rental, and I fixed the other one up and sold it. And it paid for the whole deal just for selling that. So I was like, wait a minute. So now I own a rental property. I'm collecting the rent. I've got a renter, and I owe nothing on it. I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I need to do this again. So I went and bought another rental I actually got a line of equity on my primary residence to do it the second time. I cashed out my 401k with Max and Irma's to do that first deal, believe it or not, which I took a bad tax. I had to pay a lot for that in the next year, but it was worth it. So I got a line of equity on my primary residence and went and bought another house in the same neighborhood. And I was like, okay, got a renter in, did very, very minor work to it. I think buying them vacant for me in the beginning was the best because I could get them so cheap. Now, this was back in 2012. So, the market was not what it is today. Today, what I was buying for $20,000, they're like trying to sell for 45 or 50. So how I, started, I just got lucky. It was right before everything started exploding. So I bought another rental, and then I bought another one and flipped it and was like, okay, this is good. This is easy. So then with the profits, got another one. That's when I reached out to you, Brian, and said, hey, one of my clients has a vacant in Grove City. This is a better neighborhood than, where I'm currently, working at. Do you want to go in on it? And this was the start of Midland. It was by far.
Yeah, it's interesting how you're trying to branch out a little bit. You're having some success in a certain neighborhood, a certain price point. Your model is basically rentals, and you get this client of yours that doesn't live in town, right? He's out of town.
That's correct.
And he's got this property that's insured. He's not done anything with it.
He
for
doesn't
a few years.
want to insure it was the whole thing.
Okay.
That's how I kind of got into it. He's like, well, that property is not worth anything, and I don't want to put insurance on it. And I'm like, it's not worth anything to you? Well, it could be to me.
Yep. And so, tell us. So you ended up buying that property for around $40,000.
Yep, I think 42. And I originally got a couple of my contractors in there. Excuse me. And they gave me some quotes on what the work was going to be, and it was all wrong. So I had been using these guys for all just cosmetic stuff. My other flips were totally cosmetic. So when I had them come into this, they put it in my mind, hey, it's going to be another cosmetic rehab. Yeah, we are going to have to do some electrical, but we can get in there and, get it done in a couple months. And let's budget 16 to 20,000. Well, as you know, once we got in there and realized the floors were caving in and it was knob and tube and it was completely outdated, the rehab took a lot longer and cost a lot more money. So it was about a 6-month deal. So my original 2 contractors that I had, one of them ended up quitting halfway through. So, of course, I was in panic mode and brought another one in that was just a maintenance man for me on the rentals. And I thought, you know what? I'm desperate. I'm going to use him. And he is a perfectionist and made everything take twice as long. His work is great, but he is not a flipper. He is somebody that needs to go work on like $500,000 homes and take his time doing them. So, there was a lot of setbacks, but ultimately we ended up selling. And I think for me, I put a lot of my own money, like I had that income. So, I'm still working my day job. So I still have money coming in. I still have my rental income coming in. So I was able to put my own money into it as we were going. So when we sold, I still came out with like $26,000 and bought a rental, so I still got to put a little money in my pocket, bought another rental out of it. So in my mind to this day, the rental gets $850 a month. And I think that was all my stress from Midland. It was worth the 6 months of stress and the learning experience. I went to college, and what I learned in college is not even close to what I learned in 6 months on Midland. I mean, seriously, I learned more doing that flip than I could have ever learned in, a classroom settings.
Right. Or even people nowadays. I mean, you spend $5,000 or $10,000 to go to a real estate seminar in Las Vegas or Miami or something like that. I mean, you could literally do a flip, lose $5,000 or $10,000. You're going to learn 10 times more on that, and have it under your belt to be able to go do it again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just this getting into a property, taking it apart, seeing what needs to be done to fix it, and like I said, you like to do things right. So when you go into a property, if the floors are all slopey and sinking, you got to figure out what's going on with the foundation. You can't. I mean, you could have left the foundation in its condition, but you wouldn't have been able to sell it for as much as you did. And so just doing things right, I think. But working on a house that's 100 years old, the biggest takeaway for me on that is just don't do it.
I know, exactly.
Leave that for someone else.
I completely agree. And I think I know what to look for now more. There's things that when I walk in, they can make the trim look like the floor is flat and, straight, but it's not, I mean, you really have to, I learned a lot just going in and getting my feet wet with that flip. So that was.
So are you continuing to buy rental property?
I am.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm always looking. The last thing I bought, actually, John turned me on to the deal, which was at the end of October, I think, or maybe September, and it was buying an LLC rather than, the individual properties. So this guy was trying to sell 2 properties that were deeded to an LLC, and the deal fell through because part of when he started the LLC, I guess he couldn't change the deeded owner. So you could only sell the LLC, and this guy was wanting to flip these houses, and obviously he wouldn't be able to flip them because they were in this LLC. And, John told me about the deal. I reached out to him. I said, hey, I'm not looking to flip. I'm just looking to hold. So I'll buy your LLC that holds the 2 rental properties. And he said, okay, well, I want $50,000 a piece. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll give you $50,000 for both. And, I was embarrassed of saying that, but we made the deal and I got them both for 50, for both of them. So I had a learning experience with that too, because he had done some renovations on one of them. And after owning it for 1 week, the tenant calls me because they both were already rented. The tenant calls me and she says, my basement's flooded and I don't know when you're going to get gutters on this house. And I'm like, what? You don't have gutters? Who thinks to look for gutters when you're going to look at a house and it has new siding and the windows look good? And I looked at the inside and, it never crossed my mind to see if there was gutters. And she didn't have gutters on there. So we got gutters on there real quick, and it was not a big deal, but it, just another learning experience. So
yeah, that's a cool situation. I think wasn't the LLC like a charity or something?
Yes.
So that's why
Yes.
that's why you weren't able to sell you had to own them for a certain amount of time or
5
something.
years.
Okay.
Yep. You had to own the LLC for 5 years, and he had only owned it for 2.5. So I basically talked to my attorney about it, and he's like, yeah, we can write it up, and you just basically, you're not purchasing the real estate, you're purchasing the LLC.
Yeah.
So it's still deeded to the LLC, and I plan to keep it that way.
Right.
That's fine with me. So.
That's cool.
But the income goes into your bank account.
It does.
Same way.
Exactly. And that's all that matters.
Yep.
It's a good example of a creative way to get a deal done.
Yeah, and one of them is over by Nationwide Children's Hospital, which, one of them is in the area where all my rentals are, and the other is by Nationwide Children's Hospital. And I will tell you something, the tenants in there are amazing. They're both interns at Nationwide Children's, and it's one of my highest income producing properties. So it really turned out good.
Nice.
Yeah.
And as a bonus, the owner was a public figure kind of here in Columbus, and you got to meet him, right?
Yes, and he got my son assigned football, and yeah, it was good.
So do you have a property manager to manage your properties, or how do you take care of? You have 8 properties?
Yep, I have 8 properties, and I am my property manager.
Okay.
So I have tradesmen for, I have a general maintenance man that if it is,
we need his phone number before you leave.
I don't give it. I never share him because he's busy, and I don't share him. But so I'm not his only client. So, but if it's just something general, very small, leaky sink or need a new storm door, I call him. I have an HVAC guy that I use if it's heating and cooling. I have an electrician that I use if it's electrical. So I think having my valued resources, and I know and trust them. So, I can text them and they'll go out, do an evaluation, let me know, what the problem is, and 9 times out of 10, actually almost 10 times out of 10, I say go ahead and resolve it and send me an invoice. And so it works out that I am very, very lucky to have a good team. So I'm able to manage my own properties and actually have personal relationships with every one of my tenants, which I, go into this when I rent them. I have the philosophy that, hey, I want you guys to look at me like a mortgage company. I want you to treat this house like your house. You plant flowers, if you want to paint the walls, that's not a big deal to me. Some investors don't let their tenants do things to the house. I have it in the back of my mind, when they leave, I'm going to be repainting and redoing things anyways. So I kind of give them free rein. Hey, you pay me like you would pay a mortgage. Treat the house like your house. And it's a really good, it works good for me to have a relationship like that.
Do you have them pay the property taxes? Do you have them pay insurance, anything like that?
Nope, I pay the property taxes and I pay the insurance. It's kind of, I just budget it through the rent. So I'm lucky only one of my properties has a cash out loan, I guess you could call on it. So having 7 free and clear really helps me budget, for the taxes, and it's in a low taxed area. So that's another perk, for me.
Yep.
But yeah.
So you've spent probably between 20 and 30,000 on each one.
That's correct. Yep. Yeah.
And when you buy them, I think you told me a couple years ago that you spend maybe $3,000 to $5,000 fixing them up. So you don't buy huge rehab projects and fix them up.
Right. I have one that I spent about $20,000 fixing up, but all the rest have been very cosmetic, little things here and there. And I'll get a tenant in and then do improvements as we go too. One of my houses I just did new windows on, and it had needed it since I bought it. And the front window was just falling apart. And in the fall, I was like, let's just get new windows in this whole house. And I was able to do that because the properties are low maintenance. And I hope it stays like that. But I try to stay on top of things and do little things as I go so that I don't have to do any, big jobs at once,
Right.
so.
Right.
Yeah, I love the mentality too, as far as, the more the tenants can make the property their own, the longer they're going to stay. And we found that too. I mean, you have tenants. If you have a tenant that, they're going to plant a big garden in the backyard, vegetable garden or something, they're not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? Because that next spring, they're going to want to plant that stuff. They're not going to want to have to start over somewhere else, or, painting walls and things like that, planting flowers. That's good. I like that.
I think that it's good too, because people might, you want people to feel like at home, like it's their house. They're going to stay there longer.
I agree.
It's going to be harder for them to move because they've made it their house.
One of my tenants, actually the one by Nationwide Children's Hospital, they said to me, hey, we have a fence on each side of our house, and we really want to put a fence along the back because it backs up to an alley. And would you be willing to go in half on this with us, and I will do the work, meaning the tenant will do the work. And I said, absolutely, put together a proposal for me, take some pictures, show me what you want. He ended up doing it for little less than $400. And he texts me, here's pictures, here's the final product, here's receipts, could we just take $200 off the rent next month? And I replied to him and I said, take $400 off the rent. That's for your time, your energy. You put it together. You did all this, and that's an improvement to my property. And he's like, you're the best. And I'm like, no, you guys are the best. This is great.
Yeah, and if he did it right, that fence is going to be there long after he's gone. So
exactly. Yeah.
And maybe you can charge more for the rent the next tenant.
Right?
Because you got a fenced yard.
I don't think they plan on leaving anytime soon. So
that's good.
Yeah, it is. It's really good.
So if you follow Rachel on Facebook at all, you'll see that she's often at a beach somewhere.
Sitting on a beach.
So there's been numerous times we'll text her and she's like, oh, I'm in Florida for this or that. So you like to go to Florida. Tell us a little about, I think you said you were thinking about buying a condo there and you went a different direction.
Yep. Vacationing is very important to me. It's like work hard to play hard. I really believe in that philosophy, so I exercise the philosophy. But yeah, we were going to St. Pete Beach so often that last year I was like, why don't we just buy a condo down here? Then we have somewhere to go. And I got working with a realtor who I really liked. And, I went down a couple different times, looked at a couple different properties, of course, searched tons on the internet. And I went down to meet her and was, got the financing in place, was ready to go into contract with one. And I started having a conversation with somebody that owns one in Venice. And he said, Rachel, if you want to use this for your vacation spot, make sure you love it, because you're going to go here, 3 or 4 times, maybe 2 or 3 years. And then you're going to be like, I'm sick of this. I want to do something different. I want to go somewhere different. And that conversation was something that I had thought of, but not really thought of. And it got more in depth, of course. But I got thinking, and I looked at the property again, and I loved it. But I thought, you know what? I don't want to be stationed one place right now. And I really wasn't looking to buy something and rent it out and have, somebody else tearing up my stuff and a property manager that was telling me when I could come and visit, when I couldn't, because me, I like to say, oh, it's going to be snowy this weekend. Let's go to Florida. So I don't want to have to pre-plan. Pre-planning is okay, but I don't want to pre-plan to go somewhere that I own. So, I actually, told the realtor, thank you so much. I will use you in the future, but I am going to go a different route. And one of the insurance companies sent me to Vegas in June. And it was like, if you sit through this timeshare class, you get free tickets and $500 gambling money. And I thought, you know what? I'm here for 5 days, which is way too long to go to Vegas. And might as well.
It is.
It's way too. I would never recommend it, by the way. But I was there, and I was on company time and company money. And, you can only gamble so much. You can only, go out and drink so much. I'm like, I'm going to sit through this. What's it going to hurt? It's 2 hours. I got the most wonderful education. And so many people are scared of timeshares. You hear timeshare, you hear nightmare stories. I already knew that. I went into this thinking there's no way I'm going to buy it. I'm doing it for the free money and the tickets. But I'm just going to do it. I learned so much that I didn't buy the timeshare that day in that spot, but I started researching timeshares. And I think I can say this through the Westgate was who I ended up purchasing through. And I can stay at any Westgate resort 4 weeks a year and own this. And it's unlimited forever. And I can pass it down to my kids. It's a forever deal. So then I signed up for $250 a year with an exchange company to where it broadens the hotel. So if you don't want to stay at a Westgate, you can pay this little bit amount of money and go and stay at any of the timeshare places that are through the exchange company. So, we're going to go and stay at Disney, through the timeshare for a week. And the condo I bought is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So everywhere I go, it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a kitchen. They give you, what you bought at that time. So, yeah, we love it. And, even if I want to exchange out of a Westgate resort, I pay $250 for the week and can go and stay. And I am planning to do Hawaii like you did. That's one of them. There is an option. So that will be my 2020 trip that I'm starting to plan. So
good.
I've already got 2019.
So have you used it yet? Have you?
I
gone?
have.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I have used it twice actually, and getting ready to use it again in March.
Have you done the exchange thing?
Yes.
As well.
So I stayed at a Westgate one time, and then I did the exchange one time.
Okay.
So, and the exchange, we went to Marathon, to Key Largo, the Keys, and we only stayed 5 nights. It's a 7-night, but we just checked out early, and I'm like, you know what? It was $250. It's kind of a no-brainer. So
that's cool. That sounds like a good deal.
Cool.
I've sat through a handful of those kind of spiels, for the timeshares. And like that price seems like it would be like for 1 week a year or something, but to get 4 weeks a year, that's awesome.
So you get how they do that is you can have, it can be 2 weeks a year and you can have like a 4-bedroom.
Oh, I see.
So, but instead, I don't need that. So I'll break mine up and I'll have like either a 1-bedroom with a pull-out sofa or a 2-bedroom, and that allows me to extend the weeks.
Yeah.
So truly, what I bought was 2 weeks a year, but because I never want a 4-bedroom, I break it up. So
that's
yeah.
cool.
But it's not a points thing, and a lot of these timeshares are based on points, and if you don't use them, you lose them.
Oh.
So, and this is not that. So I think I did a lot of research, and there is horror stories of people that have been in my situation, and it ended up bad. But I think it's bad when you don't use it. But we all know I travel a lot, so of course I'm going to use it. Right. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I hope, I'd be interested to know how it works out over the time, over us, 4 or 5 years, 10 years, just because I remember years ago, my parents have a timeshare. They're the horror story, and they had some exchange thing too. And I remember we were planning on going to Florida. Cocoa Beach, I think, is where we wanted to go, and we had to exchange, and we had to call every day, multiple times a day, because they said you just have to keep calling because something could come available anytime and someone else would get it. It was a huge pain. For like 3 weeks. We called 3 or 4 times a day. And it was a huge pain. So,
and that it is like that though. You don't have to call, but you have to get online. So if you have a resort,
well, this was back 20 years plus ago. So
if you have a specific resort, you can put either a request in, or you can do that because all the time they're exchanging out. So different things do come available, different things do get taken. I think that's why I have I have 3 weeks already planned this year. So I did that back in December because I knew I want to plan this out. I want to go ahead and get it locked and on the books. So yeah, and so far so good anyways. It's like a mortgage payment, I'm not going to lie, but in 3 years it'll be gone. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, the big picture. And that's how I do with my investing as well. I try to look at the big picture, and in the insurance industry. If you look at the here and now, you're always going to be the here and now. I truly believe in looking at, the future and, next week and next year. And, I think that's planning retirement early.
Yeah, that's great. Does the company or the brokerage that you work for, do they give you, do you have a completely flexible schedule, or do you have, do they dictate it all, like when you need to be in, so it's totally up to you?
Totally up to me.
That's awesome.
I'm real self-disciplined. I'm in the office every day, unless I have a sick kid or I'm sick or we're on vacation. I really try to be present because I think that makes, the girls that are helping me out want to work harder. If I was gone all the time, they would be like, well, she's never here. We don't, whatever. I try to be there, be hands-on. I do have an office in my house, but I get so much more done at work, it seems like. So I enjoy going to work, though. I enjoy being in the office, and, I get leads that way, too. A lot of times, if somebody just walks in or calls into the agency, it's whoever there. They get it. And I have a lot of lead sources, so I stay busy, having property managers. I have a property manager in Cleveland that sends me, business every week. I have a mortgage broker here, local, that sends me business, a loan officer that sends me business. You guys send me referrals. Bigger Pockets, believe it or not, you guys turned me onto that site. I get all kinds of out-of-state investors, tons from California. They are looking at Ohio real estate and thinking, this is a killer market. I can make so much money. And they find me on Bigger Pockets, and I get a lot of referrals from Bigger Pockets, believe it or not.
That's awesome.
Having the referral sources is what has really helped me grow my business. And I was mentoring a guy in my office, for a whole year. And I told him the main thing you need to do is get in with a realtor, get in with a property manager, get in with a loan officer. These are going to be your resources. I have two insurance agent resources. I work with a State Farm agent here in Columbus, and anything she can't write, she sends my way. And I, in turn promised to her, I'm not going to solicit your customers. So if you are State Farm's dropping, their auto because they got a DUI, go ahead, send them to me. I will write their auto, and I will not solicit their home. I will not solicit, the other lines of business.
Right, because typically you would try to put stuff in a package deal, right?
Right. And even if they ask me, like she got a referral of a tire shop, and State Farm won't do tire shops just because it's a big fire hazard. So I wrote his tire shop, and he owned a 30-unit apartment building. And said, hey, you saved me so much on this. Can you do my 30 unit? And as bad as I wanted to, as bad as I wanted to, I said, unfortunately, I can't. I just don't want to cross that line because of the relationship I have with the State Farm agent. And I have the same thing with a Liberty Mutual agent in Westerville. She doesn't do any commercial insurance. So anytime one of her clients needs commercial insurance, she sends them to me. But in turn, I'll never do their personal insurance. I just won't, unless they're getting dropped, of course. So, yeah, it
awesome.
Works out good. The referral sources are important.
For sure. So what's next for you? What's your goals for insurance? You want to buy some more rentals? What's in the near future for you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to get my feet wet with another flip, partner with you guys for something fun here, and see how that works out, and hopefully make a little bit of money on that. And I'm always looking for rentals. The market is so hot right now. Everything is overpriced. So I'm kind of just, laying low. And if something comes across, my desk and I'm interested, I'm ready to jump on it. But I'm not actively searching every day. So I would like to acquire another rental. I think one rental a year, a flip a year, and a rental or two a year. I say one rental, but if we talk in December, it might be like 3. Hopefully not, but it's an adrenaline, you get one and another deal comes across. So I'd say one rental a year. I'm not on the scale that you guys are. You guys are such a big, growing, awesome investors here. I remember when you guys had 1 or 2 properties, and I had more than you. And and now to see you grow, and you are the most ethical landlords, investors that I have in my whole industry. I hate to say it like this, I'm so proud of you guys. I am. You have grown an amazing business. And, I love getting the calls or the automated emails that you're buying a property or selling a property. Sometimes I have to find out on Facebook you sold the property.
We're trying to avoid
We're
those.
trying to automate that too. Yeah.
But I love watching you grow, and I'm never going to be to that scale. I don't want to be, but maybe just a rental, one rental a year, one flip a year, maybe In the insurance business, I plan to just continue on with exactly where I am, keeping my referral sources happy, and just growing with my clients. I have a handful of clients that are like you that are just growing their business, and I want to grow with them and, be their advisor forever. I don't really look at myself as an agent. I look at myself as an advisor. I'm going to give you advice. I'm going to have your best interest at heart every single time. And I don't want to get to the point where I'm like, oh, I got them forever. I don't have to give them top-notch service. I know they're not going anywhere. I want to make sure that I don't get to that point. I want to be thinking of, what can I do to let them know? Can I throw them a pizza party so that they know I'm thinking about them? What can I do to ensure you guys are on my mind, even if I'm not talking to you every day? So that's important. Maintaining the relationship in the insurance business is huge, and I plan to do that forever.
Good. So if people want to connect with you, they need some insurance, they want to get some property management advice, how do they get in touch with you?
You can follow me on Facebook, Rachel Ford. You can email me at rford@associated-ins.com. You guys can put that on your site if
Absolutely.
you want to do that,
Yep.
if that's easier. I think that's the best way. You can always call my office, 614-882-2335, and my extension's 211. If I'm not there, leave me a message. I will call you back the same day. That is something I do as well. It's a big deal to, return your calls as promptly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend if you need insurance, you need to contact Rachel. She does a great job. We don't get paid to say that. We just love, helping her out because she's helped us out in so many ways. So reach out to her if you need to.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here. This has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again and hear about all your trips with Westgate.
And with this, maybe we'll do one after we do this flip here that we're going to partner on. So
Yep, let's do
see
it.
how that works. This will be a first for me of buying something and not seeing the inside. So I know you guys are pros at that.
We've done that a few times. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
It'll be a learning experience no matter what.
Thank you so much, Rachel. You're a rock star, and we will put all of your information in the show notes so everybody can contact you who needs insurance. We certainly recommend her.
Thank you guys so much. Happy Thursday.